Greetings, loyal subjects of the Imperium of Man. I am Librarian Elias of the Adeptus Astartes. I am creating a series of recordings with the intent of educating the general populace of the dangers of the galaxy. All of this information comes from the Lexicanum, provided to me by the Adeptus Mechanicus. I will be reading verbatim from their archives. This recording will cover one of the few allies the Imperium has, a Space Marine chapter known as the Red Scorpions. The Red Scorpions are a Space Marine chapter of unknown origin. As the origins of the Red Scorpions are unknown, no records remain of the chapter's founding or from which Space Marine Legion their gene seed was first taken from. This secrecy has led to some of the Imperium's hierarchy questioning the loyalty of the chapter that keeps its history secret and holds itself answerable to the Emperor alone. Despite this, the chapter assists wherever it can, carrying out thousands of relief missions. It is known, however, that the chapter has existed for at least 5,000 years. Given that little is known about the Red Scorpions' histories, I will jump straight to the notable engagements. 857, Millennium 38, the Siege of Helios. The Red Scorpions was called in to assist the prolonged siege of the traitor's stronghold on Helios. The chapter's Master of the Forge created the Land Raider Helios by mounting extra whirlwind launchers onto the existing Land Raiders. He took this step because the Red Scorpions mistrusted the Imperial Guards units they were sent to work with, fearing the chapter may become tainted by forces already exposed to the traitor's corruption. 633 to 635, Millennium 39, the Second Aegissine Crusade. The Second Aegissine Crusade was launched to reclaim the worlds of Dread Mandragora. After centuries of isolation due to warp storms, the Red Scorpions were dispatched to battle heretic forces. Late Millennium 39, the Ordon Crusade. The entire chapter was deployed in the wilderness space of the Ordon Rift and Segmentum Tempestus for 300 years, during which it was feared that the Red Scorpions had been destroyed. It is unknown what happened during these 3 centuries. 321, Millennium 40, the Red Scorpions defend the hive world of Makand from the Orcs of War Gulgrag. Towards the start of Millennium 41, the Red Scorpions took part in the Galen 5 suppression. This involved the use of Land Raiders in Codex-approved Cobalt/Ammonium desert camouflage for the Cobalt Chromate deserts of Galen 5. 826, Millennium 41. The Siege of Vrax, a strike force composed of elements of the 1st, 3rd, 6th, and 8th companies of the Red Scorpions, arrived during the Siege of Vrax on the strike cruiser Arx Fidelis. Led by Commander Ainia, the strike force aids in the final breaching of the curtain wall surrounding the fortress of Vrax. Veteran Sergeant Carab Cullen leads the Vanguard squad that carry the teleport Homer used by Commander Ainia and his squad of Terminators in order to arrive at and subsequently hold the breach in the curtain wall where the besieging army would pour through. 4 years later, in 830, Millennium 41, the Red Scorpions would return to Vrax, this time with a strike force personally led by Lord High Commander Ferent Ortis in response to Inquisitor Lord Hector Rex's request for aid. The battle barge Sword of Ordon would arrive in orbit, carrying 400 of the chapter's battle brothers, including Veteran Sergeant Karab Cullen. The Red Scorpions would then proceed to participate in the retaking of Fortress of Vrax, particularly the Battle of St. Leona's Gate. In 850, Millennium 41, Marines from both chapter's 1st and 6th companies, led by Commander Karab, would assist Ordo Xenos Inquisitor Solomon Locke during an investigation and subsequent battle against Tyranids on Beta Amphelion 4. The chapter comes under surveillance by the Ordo Hereticus for their actions, along with Inquisitor Lord Varius of the Ordo Xenos. In 906, Millennium 41, the Red Scorpions took part in the Badab War. The chapter was brought in alongside protect shipping and space lanes, and to reinforce the Firehawks and Marines errant during the Badab War. Due to the Red Scorpions' unyielding devotion to the Codex Scripture and their unwillingness to fraternize with less traditional chapters, their operations in the war are mainly confined to space lane duties. The Red Scorpions are involved in several bloody ship-to-ship boarding actions against the Renegade Executioners chapter, while the Minotaurs carried out similar boarding actions against the Renegade Lamenters, which caused the Lamenters to surrender. Sometime later, in the same year, the Angstrom incident occurred, although not much is known of what happened. In 907, Millennium 41, the Red Scorpions returned to the Galactic East to undertake their normal duties due to orc incursions in the Ultima Segmentum that were most likely caused by Urgok the Unstoppable. In 999, Millennium 41, the Red Scorpions took part in the Third War for Armageddon. Although a single company arrived at the end of the first year of conflict during the Season of Fire and awaits the Season of Shadows to commence hostilities in Warzone Armageddon, with the Season of Fire being a natural occurrence on Armageddon, where wind whips the desert sands into a frenzy and violent storms rack the skies. There is an undated battle with Eldar forces, although it is known that at least one Red Scorpion's Rhino with space armor fought there. In current events, the Red Scorpions have been involved in operations against High Fleet Kraken and the growing Orc Empire of Urgok the Unstoppable, as well as the Octarius War. The gene seed of the Red Scorpions is unique, to say the least. The chapter is noted for the purity of its gene seed tithes, which is heavily tied to its fanatical belief in purity, in deed and thought, as well as physically, according to an assessment of the Progenoid clan samples by Inquisitor Lord Various' acolytes. The chapter retains over 94% purity, with the only exception being an overactive Betch's gland, the organ that allows a space marine to spit a corrosive and toxic saliva. It is for this reason that Various chose the Red Scorpions as the gene source for his proposed new founding to counter the Tyranid High Fleets. However, the Red Scorpions have repeatedly refused to allow more samples to be examined by the Inquisition or the Adeptus Mechanicus by Aloysius. Despite its extreme purity, the Red Scorpion's gene seed is highly gentricized. It has none of the defining features that might be used to tie it to any specific Space Marine Legion. Like all chapters, the Red Scorpions primarily reside and recruit from their homeworld. The Fortress Monastery of the Red Scorpions is a space station named Vigil that orbits Zabius Minoris, and/or its moon. The location of Vigil is a well-kept secret. Only chapter members and high-ranking members of the Administratum know. Recruits are drawn from Zabius Minoris, a small, arid world inhabited by primitive tribes of humans. The tribe's traditions tie into the recruitment process of the chapter. Missionary Galactica reports that all male infants are presented to their tribe's temple at the first full moon of its life. Few are taken by the gods, selected after stringent genetic testing by chapter apothecaries as potential future Marines because the recruits will have no experience with their parent culture. The chapter is all these recruits will know. The monastery itself is a large battle station which orbits the moons of Zabius Minoris, and from this base, the chapter sends strike forces out across the galaxy to destroy those who would threaten the Imperium. Indeed, they could almost be considered a crusading chapter because they treat Vigil as a simple base of operations rather than the center of a great realm. The chapter's armory is well stocked, and they are known to field a wide variety of vehicles, particularly drop pods and land raiders. Their forge is renowned for its ability to maintain and manufacture in limited amounts a variety of patterns of Astartes power armor, especially the treasured Mark IV pattern, commonly issued to the chapter's veterans as a sign of rank. The Red Scorpions are also famous for the quality of their arms and extraordinary weapons such as power swords, axes, or fists. which are also issued to the veterans, fulfilling both a practical and symbolic purpose of this association of military rank with quality war gear is exemplified in a collection of relic blades known as the Tears of the Scorpion, each with its own legend and wielded by one of the chapter's commanders. The only shortage of any kind of war gear the Red Scorpions have is a dwindling supply of Terminated armor due to its heavy use, notably during the Siege of Vrax, Beta and Philian IV, and the Badab War. The Red Scorpions consider the Codex Astartes as religious scripture, and their chapter organization closely follows Codex standards. The chain of command within the chapter is highly authoritarian, and all orders given by a superior are to be obeyed without question. Captains are called commanders, and the chapter master is known as the Lord High Commander. The master of the Apothecarian traditionally holds the position of second in command due to the chapter's emphasis on purity, and they also maintain a larger Apothecarian. The chapter's apothecaries are often attached to tactical squads to ensure the retrieval of the chapter's gene seed. Being a Codex chapter, the Red Scorpions favor a combined arms approach to the destruction of the Imperium's enemies whenever possible. Each battle brother is expected to be a master of all forms of warfare described in the Codex, and are available for reassignment to different squad types and companies as the need arises. Although the chapter relies heavily on the Codex Astartes for strategic and tactical deployments, it can unexpectedly innovate when circumstances dictate. A particularly notable example is the Siege of Helios, where the Red Scorpions tech marines developed a land raider Helios due to their distrust of the Imperial Guard assets fighting alongside them. The land raider Helios has now been adopted by many chapters and was recently approved by the Mechanicus. Despite being fully capable of undertaking covert operations, the Red Scorpions abhor them and prefer to face their enemies proudly, bearing their colors. This, combined with the reduced scout company due to a strict recruitment standard, ensures the chapter's neophytes are often deployed in the main battle line as an auxiliary force. As previously mentioned, the Red Scorpions have a set of beliefs that they follow to a T. The Red Scorpions do not seem to venerate any Primarch above the others, instead giving the devotion solely to the Emperor. Some say that their strict adherence to the Codex Astartes shows that they are a successor chapter of the Ultramarines, but there is little other evidence to support this besides the purity of their gene seed. Indeed, the preservation of their gene seed is the chapter's core belief. The Red Scorpions' devotion to the purity of their gene seed has made them isolationists, scorning those who they believe are less pure or deviate from the Codex, and they will go to any lengths to retrieve the chapter's gene seed from their fallen brothers. They will not serve alongside abhumans and view all other military arms of the Imperium as untrustworthy. They are also staunch traditionalists and protectors of authority, and are quick to aid imperial governors or cardinals faced with rebellion. The Red Scorpions are also extremely xenophobic, detesting the alien and the mutant in all their forms. Like all Space Marine chapters, there are chapter elements that are unique to the Red Scorpions. The Red Scorpions are assumed to have a large fleet at their disposal, given their history and salvage rights following the Badab War, but so far, only 3 ships have been mentioned. In official Imperial records, the battle barges are UL's Bane, the Sword of Ordon, and the strike cruiser Ox Fidelis. Notable vehicles from their chapter include the Belisarius, a Land Raider Phobos, the Iron Seraph, the Land Raider Helios, the Judgment of Fire, the Land Raider Hagate, and the Encarmine, a Whirlwind Scorpius. Notable members of the chapter include Karab Cullen, the current Lord High Commander of the Red Scorpions. He was inducted from the primitive world of Zabus Minoris and has risen to the ranks of the Red Scorpions to take his current position after the death of Lord High Commander Ortis. According to quotes attributed to him, he considers abhumans such as beastmen and ogrins to be subhuman, and is highly reluctant to allow his troops to serve anywhere near them. He considers the use of camouflage to be cowardice, although there is nothing to suggest the chapter as a whole shares this belief. On the contrary, the chapter is noted to strictly follow Codex Camouflage designs to such an extent that they refuse to fight alongside chapters using unofficial designs. At some point, Carib Cullen was grievously wounded, interred within the shell of a dreadnought, and now the captains Kazan Sebius and Sarai Karagon have become the de facto leaders of the chapter. Varant Ortis, Supreme Leader of the Red Scorpions, circa 830 Millennium 41. He was the one who accepted Lord Inquisitor Hector Rex's request for aid, and personally led a strike force of 400 battle brothers in the retaking of the fortress of Vrax, capturing the St. Leonis Gate from a waves of heretics, mutants, and demons. Ortis was killed during the Badab War and the Betrayal of Grief. Years later, Ania was a commander of the Red Scorpions' 3rd Company, circa 826, Millennium 41. He led a task force that answered Marshal Kagori's request for aid and captured a breach in the curtain wall of the Fortress of Frax that finally allowed the 88th Siege Company to enter the Citadel proper. Severin Loth is a Magister of the Red Scorpions and is considered one of the most powerful librarians, not only in this chapter, but throughout all of the Astartes. Inducted from a feudal planet within the Ordant Rift, he soon started to display powerful psychic powers during martial training, able to break bones with thought alone. Loth has a reputation for being a relentless fighter, as skilled in personal combat as he is mentally. Kriegor Than, Master Apothecary, who is also a member of the Death Watch. Cassin Sebius and Sarai Karagon, both captains and now co-chapter masters of the Red Scorpions. Nala, a chaplain, Dreadnought, Gultus, and Justinian, both dreadnoughts, and Haas, a veteran sergeant with a bionic left arm. His Mark IV armor incorporates an iron halo, and he has served in over 60 missions. This concludes the information regarding the Red Scorpions. More in-depth information regarding them will be recorded at a later date. This is Librarian Elias, signing